Hello my little friends, you are all looking so sexy tonight, and that BBC, I mean, that's like a cherry on top of the cake. Inspired by yourself, bring a message every day. Sorry guys for being horny as usual, but today I really want to talk about the newest Dead by Daylight's killer, Springtrap. Because man, Springtrap is going to change Dead by Daylight forever, and I really mean it. There are really not that many killers in Dead by Daylight that have had a huge impact on the future of this game. One of the most impactful characters in this game has to be the Skull Merchant, because clearly she is very thick. So it's no surprise that gooners like me spent a bunch of money on this character, and developers said,
I think we did a pretty good job so far.
I think now we should add a black lady with a fat booty into this game to make even more money.
Clearly, Springtrap doesn't have that fat booty, but you know, his power is very unique. In fact, it is so unique and it has so many little details in it. Like, I really love Springtrap, no homo. But in this video, let's talk about why Springtrap is gonna change the future of Dead by Daylight. But before that, make sure to subscribe if you are into this game. Thank you very much. Also, leave a like on this video because it will help me to get more viewers. You know, I don't really get too many new people watching my channel, mostly because YouTube, they are greedy fucks and they don't even recommend my channel to people. Like, what the fuck? With all of that out of the way, I want to remind you that Five Nights at Freddy's is the most anticipated chapter in Dead by Daylight's history. And I want to eat this ice cream, but why the fuck doesn't it have enough filling? Like, look, like, what? I mean, how do you make an ice cream? Daddy? Yeah, when there's such huge hype and anticipation for the chapter, it's practically impossible to satisfy everybody who loves Five Nights at Freddy's with this chapter. There will always be haters who will say whatever the developers have done is not enough. And I've seen people complain that the axe being Springtrap's weapon is not thematic enough and it doesn't fit the lore, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not knowledgeable when it comes to the FNAF lore. I'm just a simple guy who has seen the FNAF movie, and watching that movie was enough for me to get really excited for the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter. The point that I'm trying to make is that I'm not gonna get into a debate of whether the axe fits this killer or if it doesn't, but on my last video, which was also about the FNAF chapter, someone has commented, Springtrap never could have lived up to the hype sadly, he just seems like a better huntress. Now, respect to this person for sharing his opinion, but honestly I don't think that he has even played Springtrap in Dead by Daylight. Despite being able to throw an axe at survivors, which unironically looks very similar to Huntress's hatchets, Springtrap is a drastically different killer than the Huntress. For instance, the Huntress is the best ranged killer that we have in Dead by Daylight. Like, there is no debate that a Huntress is a real ranged killer, and it makes sense for her to be slower considering the fact that she has an ability to throw a bunch of hatchets at survivors from another side of the map sometimes. You know, these professional Huntresses, they can actually sometimes throw a hatchet from miles away from the exit gates and still hit somebody who is trying to open the exit gate. On the other hand, the animatronic, also known as Springtrap, is a beast on his own. He is not a real ranged killer. I'm talking about his range being incredibly limited compared to Huntresses. I think that he has the heaviest weapon in the entire game, correct me if I'm wrong, but his axe is definitely very heavy and you can feel it while holding it, while walking with it. Even for a guy who's been going to the gym for the last 2.5 years, the axe of Springtrap is still pretty heavy. And funny enough, one of his add-ons actually makes his axe 100% heavier than it already is, which means that developers didn't intend for the Springtrap to be played in a same way that you can play the Huntress. I would say that if I had to sum up Springtrap's power in one sentence, he would be a short-range killer with a teleportation ability. It's not about how far his axe can travel after being thrown, because it can't really travel far. It's more about what can it do to survivors. And this is where Springtrap's power becomes incredibly unique, because after you hit a survivor with your axe being thrown at that survivor, if that survivor is healthy, not injured, then not only will that survivor become an injured survivor, but also in order to be able to heal themselves or to be able to get healed by somebody, they have to remove that axe from their bodies, which is very distracting, especially when they are doing that in the middle of the chase, and it takes a bit of time to do so. Now you might want to ask me, why would I want to remove that axe from my body in the middle of getting chased? Which, just like with the artist's crows, it's possible to run and at the same time try to remove the effect from you. But you see, Springtrap is the first killer in the game who has two different speeds in the beginning of the match, and every time Springtrap is carrying an axe with him, Springtrap moves at a 4.4 meters a second speed, which is slower than most killers in the game. But for the first time in the game, this killer has a gameplay mechanic where after throwing an axe and not carrying it with yourself, you will be able to move at a 4.6 meters a second speed, which in this game 4.6 meters a second feels much faster than 4.4 meters a second speed, and it just feels very slow to chase survivors while moving at a 4.4 meters a second speed. So one of the reasons why you don't want to carry an axe with you every single time is to become faster, right? So imagine you throw an axe at a survivor, you hit or miss that survivor, and bam, you immediately become faster. How cool is that? If an injured survivor gets hit, then bam, that survivor goes down. But if a healthy survivor gets hit, that survivor becomes broken and injured, and then that survivor has to make a decision really fast. Do they want to keep an axe inside of their bodies but give you some extra speed boost, or do they want to remove that axe, slow you down, giving them some advantage, but at the same time you will get your axe back, meaning that you can down them with your short range attack? And we have never seen these strategic possibilities that require a little bit of thinking in Dead by Daylight ever before. Nonetheless, we have never seen a killer who has two different speeds ever before. And I've heard that people are generally very happy to be able to have two different speeds with the same killer, and I think that the developers will actually take this as a genuine possibility to improve their upcoming killer concepts, and I bet my fucking balls that this is not the last killer who walks at two different speeds. And not just that, Springtrap is the first killer in the game who has an exclusive animation which can be used in the game while randomly chasing survivors if the survivor is already hit with an axe, right? And if they haven't removed it, if you get close enough to that survivor, there will be an animation where you grab that survivor. It looks incredibly cool, and we have never seen it before in the game. And I just think that, whoa, it's time for the developers to finally get into the new generation of killers, and almost every single killer in the future should have some sort of a unique animation that they can actually use in the middle of the game. Before that, the only animation that is being performed automatically, I'm not talking about grabbing survivors or something like that. I'm talking about a whole movie-worthy animation we had. It was the Mori, right? But now developers are adding upon that, so that's cool, and it will definitely change Dead by Daylight forever. And not just that, I haven't even touched the camera system yet. Yes, if you play Survivor, you can actually access the cameras. I didn't even know that it's possible in the engine that Dead by Daylight is using to do this, you know, but it turns out that it's possible to just spectate cameras from different angles of the map and get really jump scared by Springtrap. Like, literally, I got jump scared as shit. Imagine, I'm just spectating a camera, okay, just looking for the killer on the camera, and bam, the killer grabs me from behind. We have never seen these interactions in Dead by Daylight ever before, but for the first time ever, Dead by Daylight is getting a new element of horror, and I believe that, unironically, FNAF chapter brings new horror elements into the game that was supposed to be a horror game in the first place. I mean, we have a bunch of horror characters, but since we got characters like Nicolas Cage and Lara Croft, I've been thinking that Dead by Daylight is moving away from horror, so it's really nice to get something legitimately scary. And funny enough, a bunch of people say Five Nights at Freddy's is a franchise for kids. I mean, it's not, bro. Anyway, those are my takes. I hope you enjoy this chapter, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Subscribe for more Dead by Daylight videos. I will see you next time. Bye bye.